What is up? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be doing something I like to do once every month, and that's called the Indicator Special, where we run through a number of various indicators. Not all of them, that would take many hours. We're not going to do that, but we're going to run through many different indicators and see, is there some sort of a common theme or message that the markets are telling us as far as how Bitcoin's doing now, and if it can give us a good idea of what it's going to do in the near future. Of course, as a good market psychologist, we should always start off with fear and greed, and we can see that we are still up in greed territory, got to the border once again of greed and extreme greed, but then we got a little bit of a pullback. That's standard, especially since in the course of 10 days, as soon as we were getting towards extreme fear, 10 days, we flipped completely to almost extreme greed. So that was a big move. Standard pullback. We might get another move up soon enough. Now, if we zoom out, we can see that ever since the tariff scare, once the market recovered from that, from April to August, we were trying to get to extreme greed. Now, we haven't gotten there yet. Let's zoom out even more. And I will have you know that extreme greed can come before those tops. So you can see here, these were the peaks in November and April. Extreme greed can pump us to those tops. This one, that was the mid-cycle top in June. So do be on the lookout for extreme greed. Last time we had consistent extreme greed was last year. And funny enough, or ironically enough, the Fed did their last rate cut cycle last year. And we've been talking about this. 25 base point rate cut cycles are bullish for the market. Now, as far as seasonality, we're going to run through a number of these. These are different indicators. They're not just on the charts, but they're good to know. Again, we had a very positive move up last year with the rate cut cycle. So I'm expecting something similar this year. Maybe Bitcoin can get to that 150K area. And if it's euphoric, even 200K. And all this stuff, I know many of you, you're curious, when is alt season? I just did a video on that. I think Monday I laid it out pretty well. Watch that rainbow chart video. I talk about the different metrics of when to look for alt season. I talk about a lot of things on this channel, including Bitcoin mining stocks, individual cryptos. So do be on the lookout for that. If you have any specific crypto requests, comment them below. I do YouTube shorts for some of these, and I try to talk about current price action, maybe even price targets if it's applicable. But anyways, let's get over to Bitcoin. And as I go through these indicators, once I'm done with the video, if there is an indicator I have not talked about that you would like for me to talk about, comment below. Many of you have shared good ideas. I cannot wait to feature one new one that one of you kind subscribers shared. So thank you again for all the recommendations. But recently, if we just take a look at Bitcoin right now, I drew out this descending channel because we're making a series of lower highs, lower lows, and eventually we punch through that. Now, that is a nice breakout from a descending channel, but as we moved up, something I notice here is, and I hope you guys notice this, is that when we connect these two upper lines, it seems to get pretty close to there. And I thought to myself, are we now forming an ascending channel? And it doesn't necessarily mean, that one or the other is bullish or bearish. We can break up out of either of them, but Bitcoin has had more descending channels before breaking up, as you can see. I don't have to draw them all out, but you can see the lower highs, lower lows, descending channel, boom. Lower lows, lower highs, descending channel, boom. Small descending channel here, there. So I am looking for Bitcoin to get above this ascending channel right here in the trend line area. You just go to channels down here. That's how you find it. So overall, Bitcoin may come back down to this area. I've been looking at this as an inverse head and shoulders that hasn't played out yet. So this trend line, it's near where the 50-day moving average is. If Bitcoin comes back down somewhere between the area of, I'd say, 119 and 116, that'd be an area where I could expect some level of support before maybe going up. Once we see Bitcoin kind of breaking above 127, getting above this channel area, I do think that'll be good. All right, let's turn off our moving averages right here. And zooming out, let's also talk about the Fibonacci retracement. I call this the golden ratio indicator. So look up Fibonacci. You can see how the golden ratio is everywhere in the universe, from rivers to streams, from veins to capillaries, the way tree branches moves into the veins of leaves. It's everywhere in the universe, even as you zoom out and look at galaxies. So that golden ratio that we have reflected in our fib retracement, we take our fib, draw high to low, this is our macro fib, take it off log, and here is that 155K area. Even some other fib targets would be 210K. That's at the 3618 and the 4236 at around 240. I will remind you all that last cycle Bitcoin got in between the 3618 to the 4236, and so far each cycle we have hit lower fib targets, and that's even reflected somewhat in our Bitcoin rainbow chart. That was the old one. Let's go to the new one. That we hit these lower topping areas. You can see how we have this log regression, log scale factors of 10 regression over time. So we've been talking about this orange band, the 100 or the high 100K range, the low 200K range for a while. We can even take a look. We'll just start with this indicator right now, the log regression band right here. We have to go to the weekly, and we can see that Bitcoin has had tops here in the log regression in the upper areas. And that is, funny enough, we could see the area of this log regression where it's topped out, funny enough, right where we were talking about the 2618, the 3618. So 155 to 200K. We'll also go to our pi cycle indicator, and we'll go through other indicators as well, but even our upper pi cycle moving average indicator, we can see is right there in that area as well. Now, when we've triggered pi cycle, you can see Bitcoin has gotten above it, but it stays above it a little bit less each time, each cycle. So I'm expecting, if we do get above it, maybe it's just short-lived, lower 200Ks if we get a euphoric market, but if not, I'd say even a decently euphoric market could get us to that 200K area also. All right, so let's start running through a number of these indicators. I'm going to be on the weekly time frame. Let's take a look at, now there's a lot of them. We're not going to go through them all. We'll start with this one, the Aurora Super Guppy indicator. And this one basically shows it's pretty close to where I want to say the 50-week moving average is. Let's see if that lines up. Yeah, the 50-week is right in here. Once Bitcoin starts to break under the 50-week moving average, in this area of the Aurora, it starts to turn bearish and go from a green to a gray color. So does it say which moving average that is? There's a bunch of numbers here, but overall, this is still very much bullish. It's still very green. So the trend is still very nice. Let's go to Bollinger Bands. This is one I really like. And, something that I think a lot of people don't talk about enough is, as these Bollinger Bands start to squeeze and get tighter, that's when we start to see big moves one way or the other. So we can see Bollinger Band gets tight, boom, big move up. And then here as it got tight, boom, big move down. But I do believe we're still very bullish. Bollinger Bands are tight. Maybe this is the start of a big move up, and you can even see that reflected. I have the Heikin-Ashi candles on right now, and that is a very nice weekly Heikin-Ashi candle. I mean, even as a very simple indicator, Heikin-Ashi candles show us the trend. Bollinger Band squeeze, I'd say, new all-time highs, all that. Again, we want to get above that 126 area, but I do like what I see with the Bollinger Bands. By the way, as I go through some of these indicators, I may hop over to the monthly time to time. Bull market support band, this is a good one for the weekly. And again, big move up. Sometimes we've tested it, and recently we did. It never got below it. So the bull market support band continued us up. And in times we've gotten below the bull market support band, that's when the 50-week moving averages come in. So areas between the bull market support band and 50-week moving average have been the areas to buy in at those local dips. But here we just got a nice bull market support band bounce, which is good because that means we are still bullish, obviously. Let's keep going on down. The super guppy is pretty much the same. We looked at fear and greed. Darvis box, this is more of a trading indicator, kind of like Bollinger Bands a little bit, but this one I find to be good for sort of the shorter time frame, short to medium, that when we hit those areas of the Darvis box or upper Bollinger Band, sometimes you can encounter resistance where all of a sudden it comes back down after smacking into it. So if we did get a little bit of resistance, you can see where the lower area that Darvis box is. I don't think it's going to go that low. In the Darvis box, it does change as we go between time frames. On the daily, you can see very much above it. And so if we did get some support here off the Darvis box, you're seeing an area of like 115, that upper area 118. So I do look at the Darvis box time to time, but from what I've seen, it's more of a tool for traders, but I do like it. I do like it as an indicator. The Donchain trend ribbon, this just shows that we are still very much bullish. It only turns red when we are really confirmed bearish. So if this cycle all of a sudden gets very bearish and we're getting below that 50-week moving average, this would be a good indicator to look for when we're getting those local bottoms. So if all of a sudden we're getting a little bit red in the Donchain, and we're getting down here, that'd be a good area to watch for. I also think, if you go to the monthly moving averages, I like this a lot. Ignore the Donchain for a second. If you look at the Donchain trend ribbon on the weekly and see what it's red, okay, right here when Bitcoin was going below 27,30,000, right over here, that you can see the moving average going from the 50-month to the 100-month. So those are, in my opinion, good macro areas to look at, possibly very long-term plays if you're looking at Bitcoin. And you see me referencing the moving averages a lot. I just think they come into play and they work well together with so many indicators. Let's next take a look at, that's the indicator I use, by the way, for the moving averages, the EMA 20, 50, 100, 200. Let's keep going down. Hull Suite, I love this one for the weekly. Now, the Hull Suite pretty much is the same as the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, in that we are red in the MACD until we break above and get above the Hull Suite. So you can see right here, that's when the MACD was turning positive. Let me show the indicator names here for you. When the MACD turns positive, that's pretty much when we're getting through that ribbon. So kind of like the bull market support band, when we get under it, we have a red MACD. When we get under this Hull Suite, we can bounce off of it. Again, we get under the MACD, turned red. When we get through it, bullish moves. So I do like taking a look at both of these, it's the same thing, but it shows, I think, different perspectives just slightly. Here we got just a tiny bit underneath the Hull Suite indicator. Let me get rid of the MACD because I want to show you something that I found interesting. I don't think I've talked about this yet, but the bull market support band, we got underneath, but we were being squeezed. And I was looking back in time, it's like, how often has this happened where we were being squeezed in between each? And it's not very often. Here you can see going between each, but then eventually a big move up. But I haven't really seen that many times where we've been right in the middle. Either way, when we're in the middle, it seems like we have a nice big move up or down. So yeah, kind of a different thing going on there. But overall, bullish on both of those metrics. We won't look at the MACD again unless we go to the monthly. I do think the monthly for the MACD is pretty good. The Ichimoku cloud, this is one I see other people talk about it. I'm trying to remember the name on X. I can't. I apologize, but someone did say recently that getting above, I think it was one of these lines here, I apologize, or having a positive cross leg was bullish for the Ichimoku. Does it change on the daily? Maybe they're on the daily time frame, but someone I follow on X, again, I don't pretend to know too much about this one. And let me just remind you, for any of these indicators, I only use the indicators that I can replicate information for myself and use for my investing strategies. So if some of these indicators are over your head, like Elliott wave theory. Elliott wave theory is a very, very popular way of looking at charts with all the wave patterns. I cannot replicate it. There seems to be so many rules and different conditions on whether something's impulsive or corrective. And I think Elliott wave theory, I'm just going to say it, I think a lot of people use it as an excuse to say that they're never wrong of where these moves go when they're trying to sound smart and predict. They say, well, the move didn't go here because we had an impulsive move, and this is actually the B wave. It just seems like a lot of people misuse it, and there's a lot of rules and conditions. So because of that, I don't really use Elliott wave theory. It's not something I can replicate and confidently say that I know what I'm talking about. And I'm just not going to pretend to BS you guys about that stuff. Same with the Ichimoku cloud. I'm fine saying I don't know. But from what other people have said, it's recently bullish. So take that for what you will. This is the Larson line. And one of you shared this with me. It's got that 50-week moving average. It seems, how much does that line up? Yeah, pretty close with where the 50-week moving average is. But it has more of a range, and staying above the Larson line is, just bullish. So there we go. We are bullish on multiple metrics. Let's keep going. Larson line. We looked at log regression. Multiple bands. One of you shared this. Thank you so much. I want to give you credit. So, if you are the one that shared this, please comment below. I'll pin you. Thank you very much. I really like this indicator. Let's zoom way out. You're probably like, my God, what is this? This shows a lot of the different moving averages, but it also shows moving averages above it. And the next Mayer multiple band is right up here near the 2618 area. So even this indicator, getting above this yellow medium range, I kind of look at it as, sort of in the rainbow chart, like where is the common through line? Now, you might tell yourself, well, yellow's the middle. Not totally true. You see how the tops sort of regress over time. So I think this is even squeezing, if you can imagine the top squeezing even more. I think the center is somewhat here. And I think this indicator does a good job of it, showing where the fair value is and where the deeper value is. So when we've gotten above this yellow line, you can see how bullish we get. Now, Mayer multiple band, we got way above even the upper red line. Last cycle, look at this. I mean, what a great indicator. We can get rid of this fib for right now. I can always redraw it. Sorry, that was way too much going on the screen. We got right up to it, and that was pretty much where the top was, and this was alt season. Okay, the second peak got to that other Mayer band. So each time we are hitting lower bands, and so, if this cycle we were above, in 2017, and last cycle we only got to, the orange and the red, then my argument would be, why not the orange right here, right around 210K? And you guys will remember that, as I drew out this fib, that, that 210K, that's right around the 3618. That's where the pi cycle is. It's where a lot of things are. So, again, I think there's multiple macro indicators sharing sort of the same idea that if we get euphoric, and there's a lot of data out there to show that throughout the next year, we might have very positive moves in the market. Where was it? I think it was this. Yeah, the Shiller PE ratio. People are talking about how this is a repeat sort of the dot-com bubble. I mean, if you look at the dot-com bubble and where the Shiller PE ratio was for the S&P 500 at 40, this was in January of 99. We still had over another year to go and 25% up in the market. We recently got to 40. But as you can see, we don't just spike down. We can stay up here and maybe get more volatility in 2026, get some more moves up. But I think crypto, might have a top somewhere in here earlier before the stock top, in my opinion. So yeah, I think there's a lot of macro indicators to say, we could be bullish still for another while, 6 to 12 months. That would not surprise me. All right, let's keep going. Wanted to feature that one. That was a very good indicator. MACD, let's just go back to it for a minute. You can see the weekly is about to flip up. When it flips up, let's just go back to the start of the cycle. This was sort of a bullish divergence area here. Bitcoin eventually did bottom and start its move upward. Here, just a little bit of chop. Here, when we flipped up, this is when Bitcoin went from around 30K to 80K, so 50K move up. This area when the weekly MACD flipped up, this was right around or within a month after the Fed cut rates, and Bitcoin moved from around 60K to 110K by January. So, that was a very positive move. Here when the MACD flipped, from the start of that move, Bitcoin was at around 102K, right where that 1618 fib extension is, and we got up to, by the time that move was done, 120K, so it went up 20K, not as big of a move up, but if we get another MACD move up, that'll be very, very positive, and the monthly is still very positive for the MACD. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at, we did MACD, moving average, we talked about pi cycle. Let's get through the different strength indicators. Now, the RSI, the regular RSI, this does have me concerned unless we break through it. You've probably seen this a number of times, and we have lower peaks of strength in the RSI, okay, but we have higher prices. This is classic bearish divergence, but I will say this about divergence, it can take a while to play out. And also, we can hit this divergence line and break above, and then all that pretty much goes away, and all of a sudden we'll just have a bullish trend. So this area at around 70, do watch for that. We are getting close to that on the weekly. See what happens here. Hopefully we don't get another rejection. Even here you can see when we go to the monthly, I do like taking a look at the monthly with the different strength indexes. And I will say, however, let me try to get those points. I would say we still have a ways to go, okay? So on the monthly, I feel more bullish. On the weekly, this gives me some pause, that maybe we could get a flush. But if we're all of a sudden, starting to form just higher lows, that can give us some bullish divergence as well. So divergence, our size, it's not always a good one-to-one indicator, but it is something to pay attention to. Reverse Cutler's relative strength index, when we get these boxes up here, those can be good at showing where some of those local tops are, or at least when we're very bullish or very oversold and bearish. Again, it doesn't always call the bottom, but it does tell you when we're getting extremely overbought or oversold moves. Doesn't exactly call the top, but it can tell you, hey, we are very bullish right now. So we had this peak up here in July when we had that pump, but right now we are at sort of a crossroads. You can see that moving average right here. Is it going to continue down, or are we going to break through and have that, classic 4-year alt season? So good indicator. Again, when I'm looking at charts, usually, if I'm buying something, I'm looking at my fib retracements and my moving averages, and then a sprinkle of the stochastic RSI, MACD, and I'm good. That's usually what I do. But again, we're just taking a look at a lot of things right here. Smart money concepts. Is this anything? Maybe it's just showing where heavy volume is. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about with that one. But I know I was talking about that. Maybe it was during a live stream. But yeah, not going to talk about it. Stochastic. On the weekly, just like the MACD flipping up, that's very good for the weekly. How about the monthly? The monthly even has room to go up. So, I'd say overall both those are medium-term bullish for Bitcoin. As far as the stochastic and MACD, both those indicators look very good to me. Super trend, just something to pay attention to, kind of like the 50-week moving average. You can see the super trend, the 50-week, very close. And if all of a sudden we're getting underneath those, we are bearish. So right now the super trend, it's coming up to like 95K, the 50-week 99K. We can have wicks underneath, but we need candle body closes. So you can see here the super trend in the 50-week, last cycle it held, but when the 50-week broke, when the super trend broke, retested the 50, just came down, that was not good. Even the cycle before, Yeah, obviously the super trend, the 50 week, if you waited all the way to here, I mean, you're screwed anyways. You know, you had like a 2/3 drawdown. So do pay attention to where the 50 week and the super trend is. Coming right up to about 100K, 102K. This 1618 fib line, let me just say, that's probably the area to watch for right here. This fib from prior cycle high to low, that 102K, 100K, that's, to me, that's the line in the sand that you do not want to go underneath at all. This is just a buy sell signal, or UT bot alerts is, we don't need those. Ultimate RSI, we'll finish with this one. Ultimate RSI, you know, kind of like the regular RSI, showing us weekly divergence, you know, but can we break above that? You know, we can draw a trend line the exact same way, you know, can we break above and all of a sudden just turn mega bullish? And, you know, speaking of which, I wonder, did that happen at all last cycle? I mean, kind of, we can see it right here, you know, a bit of, well, to me, that's just bearish, you know, because we had lower prices, lower strength, not really quite there. I mean, here, that was divergence that played out. Here, you know, that was just bullish for a while. So, yeah, you know, this is concerning. This is concerning, definitely. As far as the ultimate RSI, let's get rid of these trend lines here. On the monthly, delete, thank you. You know, we'll just use this one. We'll recycle that line. Thank you very much. As far as the ultimate RSI line, I mean, we're getting towards where that trend line is, that descending trend line. Talk about bearish divergence. So hopefully the ultimate RSI can get above, especially on the weekly. You know, the monthly, it's about to run into it too. So, yeah, we'll see. I think we're coming to a head for a lot of these indicators where we're getting that moment. I think even for the RSIs, this is what I'm taking away. As we run into those areas of those trend lines of bearish divergence, we'll close out with this. Let's bring up the RSI. Sweet, there we go. As we come up to those areas of bearish divergence, let's go to the weekly. What's going to happen? Are we going to break through? I think timing-wise, 4-year cycle, all that, you know, we can show this on the rainbow chart. You know, we get these tops, again, every 4 years, Q4, post-halving year. Here's the halving. Here's the next year, post-halving year, November, December top, post-halving year. Here's the halving, okay? Post-halving year, December top, post-halving year. Again, December top, post-halving year. Though we did have, or November top, sorry. Though we did have alt season here, but we also had all that quantitative easing and money printing. Again, post-halving year, are we going to get a December top? You know, something 150 to 200K. You know, if we are, I think we're getting to that moment, at least with the RSIs, of, you know, this thing's going to have to break above, and we're going to have to get euphoric here in this Q4. I think that's what I'm taking away from this. That we're gonna come to decision time, and should we have another classic cycle top, then I could see these RSI trend lines being broken, and trend lines are meant to be broken. They're not perfect all the time. But then we would see that euphoric blow off top, Bitcoin going to 150-ish K in a very good, I think, conservative scenario for a top. But in a euphoric scenario, you know, I'm looking at that 200K area. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. I like doing these indicator specials. I hope you enjoy them as well. Again, if you have any other indicators you'd like to share for me to talk about, comment them below. You know, like the Ichimoku Cloud or Elliott Wave. You know, if I don't know quite what I'm talking about, I'll be honest. I'll present it. I'll show it. But I'll also be honest with you and be like, you know what? I'm not up to speed on those, and that's okay. I think, you know, like I said before, if you marry your moving averages with your Fibonacci retracement, I think you can get a lot of good data that way. So, or a lot of good areas to buy in, even if you're putting in trend lines and stuff too. I think that is more than good enough, and be good at the simple things. like in sports, music, a number of things. Be good at the fundamentals and simple things. And I think then you can sprinkle in, maybe some of these more complex indicators time to time. That's how I sort of view it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful Wednesday and rest of your week. Take care.